Hi, I'm Kimberly Cooper Griffin, and I'm a writer, and I also work at Inkstacks, the makers of the Inkslinger software and book series. And we're going to talk a little bit about knowing your target audience, which is something that a lot of writers don't put a lot of stock into because they are probably a little bit further into their process about wanting to write a book, and the inspiration has taken them, and now they're going with it, right? And there's a lot to be said about understanding who your target audience is, and everybody always thinks about target audience as book sales, and that's a very big part of it. But when you're talking about the inspiration about writing a book, and you get into the whole idea of doing it, it kind of takes you through the process a lot of times if you don't think about it. And then you get to a certain point and you go, oh, I wish I'd thought about that earlier so that I could have maybe incorporated it into my work a little bit. But target audience is not just about sales and promotion. Target audience is about being able to resonate with your readers. It's also about making sure that you have consistency in the writing that you're doing. If you know who you're writing to, you're going to choose tones and themes and characters that are going to fit the people that you're trying to reach. And there's a fine line between writing with the passion and the knowledge of what you have in your mind, and looking at it from a business point of view. And target audience isn't always about business view. It's about making a connection. And that connection is so important, whether or not it's a connection to just you. Maybe you are your target audience and you're writing a story for you, and you don't care about anybody else who's going to read it. And that's not a bad thing. That's good. If you're a writer, write towards your passion, what you want to do. But a lot of times you get done with the writing and then you want to share it. And if you're not aware of who that's going to resonate with, you may find yourself feeling a little disappointed because people aren't wanting to read your book, or it's somehow it's not gelling with them, or they get partly through it and they realize that they're not into that kind of book, and then you thought they were going to love it. And that can happen. But if you're aware of what your target audience is, you can, go away from the path towards that target audience as long as you know where they're kind of standing. You can make changes. Rules are made to be broken when you're writing. But if you know the rules, you can break them effectively instead of, maybe ungracefully. So when you sit down and you're thinking about your book, and you can do it at any part of the process, it helps to know it in the beginning. But at some point during the process, you might want to sit down and think about who you're trying to reach and how the message of your book is going to resonate with certain people or not resonate with certain people. Or if you're going for everybody and you're trying to please everybody, you're probably not going to be very, the message that you're putting is going to be diluted a little bit. So it's not going to be as effective. So when you think about target audience, just think about who's going to love it, in positive terms. Think about who's going to really, really sit down and vibe with this story that you're writing. Who's going to need to hear it? Who do you want to reach? Do you want to transform somebody, with your words, which is a perfectly wonderful thing to do as a writer, is to want to make a difference in somebody's world. Think about those kind of things in a positive way and how you want to do it, as opposed to, I need a target audience, I need to have an assignment, and I need to make this really wonderful story that has all these flowing, beautiful prose and phrasings and thoughts and ideas and gorgeous settings, and then all of a sudden I have to force it into this thing. You don't have to do that. You can just understand how it's going to work within the audience that you're trying to build. But target audience doesn't have to be, just an exercise in finding out who's going to buy your book. It's also about who's going to enjoy your book and who needs to read your book. To kind of give an example of how important understanding your target audience is, I can talk personally about my own experience. When I first started writing, I have a stack of manuscripts that have been started but have never been published and probably won't be published because I was working through my inspiration and getting those words down in writing and learning how to be a good writer. And they're kind of muddy when you read them. Yeah, they haven't been edited, so that would change if you edited them. But also, I didn't know who my target audience was. My target audience was actually just me, and so it's probably appropriate that those manuscripts stay in a stack that only I can read. But if I were to take them and publish them, I would have to rework them because now I understand who my target audience is. And another example of that is the first 3 books I wrote were extremely meaningful to me. I have a lot in my mind. I'm a lot darker than I am on the outside, and it comes out in my writing sometimes. And those books are dark, but they're intended to be romances, which is kind of a conflict. Not necessarily. You can have great dark romances, but that's not who I wanted to be. And so there is a different style to those books, and they're great books. I've won awards with them, but they're not the audience that I was writing for. And I can tell when I'm reading it, and I think some of my readers can tell too. The books that I write now are a little bit more classically romance novels. They follow the arc. There's specific romance beats, and some people look at that as a formula, and it is. There is a formula. You want to go through the romance beats of, people meet people, they go through their tension. There's some kind of crisis that happens. They work through it, and they get what they want at the end, happily ever after. That's a romance book. If you don't give them the happily ever after, a lot of people who are reading it will be very upset at the very end of your book. So that's understanding who your target audience is. If you're writing for you, do whatever you want to do. That's for you. If you're writing for other people, understand what their expectations are going to be, and understand how that's going to affect the way your book is taken in by readers. I have a completely different set of readers for my first set of books than I do for my more recent books. My audience for my romance books is completely different than the books that we're writing for Inkslinger. And knowing that is helping to make sure that the book is right for the people that read it. And I think that's a good example of understanding what your target audience is.